My guest for this episode of Wisdom Personified, Conversations with Dudu Msomi, is Professor Christa Bonnet. Christa is the CEO of the Difference Makers NGO. Her experience cuts across various disciplines. She holds multiple qualifications and professional memberships, a master's degree in financial management, an MBA, a PhD in organizational leadership. Professor Christa is currently doing her doctorate in ministry and spiritual formation. Thank you so much for making the time for me.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
It's been so long, hey?
Yeah.
So great to see you. So can you tell me a bit about your upbringing? What are your most treasured memories of your childhood? Do you have any siblings?
I am a daughter of the soil. I grew up in Bloemfontein. My mum and dad were farmers. They're still both alive. My dad is 86, my idol. My mum is 83, deeply in love. They're married for close to 60 years, so they're really my inspiration. I have a brother and a sister, both older than me. I'm not very close to them, but I so love my mum and dad.
I know. We used to see a lot of postings on that on Facebook at once upon a time, which is good. So you say you grew up in the Free State. Your home language is Afrikaans.
Yes.
How has the community you grew up in influenced your belief system and character?
Afrikaans people sometimes are very conservative, and I was not conservative. But the values that I took with me is a lot of the things that my mum and dad instilled in me. Like with farmers, is they don't always have control over the weather, whether it's hailing or that's one thing that my mum and dad taught me as children of farmers is you cannot wait for life to give you solutions. You deal with what life gives you. If they give you hail, if they give you drought, you deal with it and you find solutions in it. So it instilled a toughness in you. From that point of view, my mum and dad are very godly fearing people. So they taught me about faith and loving God. My dad taught me the most expensive lesson of my life, but one that I took with me everywhere and said, my child, you never lie. You rather tell the truth, and people can get angry at you, but they can get over it if they're still in your life, but they can trust you again. But if you lie, truth always comes out. And then they will be disappointed, and they won't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
You broke something sacred. So I think those values I brought with me, even if I wasn't as conservative as the family I grew up.
Oh, beautiful values. I think anybody can learn from those. Yeah. What does wisdom mean to you?
Well, I was thinking about that, especially because your conversations is wisdom personified.
And you wondering, am I personification of wisdom? I do get asked that sometimes.
And
yes.
I looked at the sequence of wisdom personified, and the personified is actually the verb of it's not knowledge personified, it's wisdom personified. That means wisdom is you got to a space in your life where you're not thinking knowledge, let's say transformation. You don't feel the adjust, but it's part of who you.
It's the connection.
It's become part of your DNA. It's that embeddedness, that personification of the ability between taking decisions of right and wrong. But then I also looked at it on the other side is, for me, wisdom is something that's grace of God. Because we can get as much knowledge as we can. I have 7 degrees, but it doesn't make me wise.
I did notice that. I may just want to talk about that at some point. The degrees that keep on coming,
but it doesn't make you wise.
Yes.
So everything that God puts on your path is the challenges, the lessons. What are you doing with it? How are you going to go through it and integrate it? And then slowly God opens the wisdom up.
And then you personify it.
It's like it's part of you. You don't think about right and wrong anymore. You just do. And also, I had to take a lot of decisions in my life that was very career limiting because of that. But then you take the consequences.
Yeah. Every decision comes with consequence. That's my dad's lesson.
Oh, really?
Yes. You always have a choice. But even if it's unintended, you have to take responsibility for the unintended consequences of it.
Because everything will have a consequence.
Yes. So what do you think your unique value proposition is? What are your memorable and impactful qualities?
Oh, Dudu.
Trust me, yes.
So that's a contextual question, eh? So if you, and I'm going to just separate it for you, is if it's my value proposition to God, and I'm starting there, then it's I've learned to be obedient. So I'm obedient. I don't play with a God because I know His wrath through the lessons of life. So my value proposition to Him is I'm damn committed and I'm obedient, and I've said yes and I serve Him. If it's to my children, my value proposition to them is Mommy will do whatever it takes to make sure you're okay. So they have a lioness of a mother, and I don't mind who I lose in the process to protect my children. If it's my clients, so that's why I say it's contextual, is my value proposition is I will give you more than you bargain on. You're going to get solutions that you have not expected. And I walk the extra mile. If it's to the woman we develop, is I'm going to be your bigger sister. I'm going to hold your hand. I'm going to take you through a journey as much as you allow me, as God took me on a journey.
Yeah.
So in total, my value proposition is I live my purpose.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm not scared to pay the price.
And what is your purpose?
Serving God, whatever He puts on my path.
Which is perfect to ask you this question. So in August 2011, you had a near-death experience. What did you experience during the NDE?
Indeed. I had swine flu, and at that stage, I separated my journey with God versus my journey with Jesus. I was spiritual. And that day, I really thought I'm going to die. And the voice said, go and lie in the bed. And I said, God, I will do whatever you need to do but save my life. And the experience I had to do was, you see yourself, but you're not in your body. So it's like I was lying in this room. There was only a slab in the middle. And I could see myself lying on a table. And then on the top, it was like a room of elders. And they were discussing. But healing happened. And then in that process I was lying on the bed. I'd see myself, but also my hands started going in the air. And afterwards I realized I received light. I received energy. And it was about early in the morning when I came out of that sleep. It was about 3 o'clock. And I remember I walked to my study. I took out an empty journal. And for 2 hours, I just wrote. I still have the book. So then in that moment, because I bargained, I said to God, I will follow you, but I know nothing about you anymore. You need to teach me. And He did. So for the last 12 years, it was a hectic journey. of molding.
Yeah. Were you scared to die before you had that experience?
Yes, because I don't want to let my children grow up with me because I wasn't ready.
That's what the bargaining was about.
That was the bargaining about. Just save my life. I will do whatever you want me to do. But if you do that, you can't go back on your word.
Well, some people do, as you know. I mean, people go to church. Besides the near-death experience, we go to Sunday church, we say blah, 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 and then we go back on Monday and we do something else. So that was interesting. So because I always watch your communication on social media, and it really looked like there was just like a break in your life and you were never the same.
That was one break. I got a few breaks similar but in different contexts since then. And that's what I've learned is everybody's journey with God's different. But if He has a plan with you, if He has chosen you and He want to expedite your journey towards wisdom, if I can, and inner transformation, He's going to get you there one way or the other. So you either can be a sucker for pain and resist it, or you say, God, what do I need to do?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to change? Because I was a totally different person then.
Yes, you were. How has the person you are today evolved from who you were before the NDE? What do you know for sure now about living and being a human being that you were not sure about then?
I'm going to start with the first part is the person I am today versus the person I was then is that person wanted to be accepted. That person wanted to have approval of I'm doing good or I'm doing this amazing work. The person I'm now is I don't care about any of that. As long as I make God smile, I know the right people will smile. And whoever, I'm not attached to acceptance anymore. I've lost a lot of family by decisions I took, which is non-negotiable for me. I've lost a lot of colleagues and friends. So it's like, in a way, you've been stripped bare, but you have acquired wisdom. And some of those things and those people who are left, I love dearly, and I still love them. But whether they're in my life or not is not important to me anymore. Whether I'm rich or not is not important to me anymore. I've said no to a lot of work if it's not aligned with my values. If I can't serve God in that, and even consulting, if I can't serve God there's no place for God, there's no place for me.
Interesting.
Interesting or crazy?
No, it's not crazy. I will never, ever, until you've walked a path, to judge something that you haven't been. Because I'm very much interested in the experiences, and everybody comes out differently. And whatever your path is, I embrace it. For me, why we're having this conversation is to share wisdom. And somebody may watch it and say, cool. Somebody may say, So for me, it's just to be the vehicle to share what is happening in the world, because we can be very much in our own silos and not be exposed to what is happening to other people. So in 2019, you had small cysts discovered in your brain.
Yeah.
On social media posts then, you said never regret anything and realize that worry is a waste of magical moments given to you. What wisdom can you share with someone who has just received a life-threatening diagnosis to inspire them to develop that life-affirming attitude instead of giving up?
I think two things to do. That night when I received, there was two cysts. One was on my pituitary and the one is on the God spot in the brain. And what the neurologist at that stage said is only God can put that one in the embryo stage in your brain, and only God can take that cyst out. So what I learned is faith can heal. Because that night, my parents and everybody activated a prayer circle And the next day, the neurologist was redoing all the tests, but zoomed in on that one and it got spot in the brain, and it was gone. So for me, faith and consolidated faith can heal. The other one that's still there is I've learned two lessons. The one is gratitude. My dad taught me the lesson of gratitude. So that's the one. He said, Christa, you are actually fortunate that you have it in your brain. Do you know you can go every 6 months or a year and they can check how's that one doing? Other people walk with those things in their brains and they never know. So my dad reframed that for me with wisdom to say, you're grateful you know about it. The second thing is you either can choose, am I going to live in fear or am I going to live in faith and gratitude? Because I had a discussion with God and said, okay, you're going to be in my brain the whole time. So that means you're now going to chat a lot because you're up here. So yes, I got a lot of brain fog, so my memory is not always as it should, but I still have a memory. And I refuse to live in fear. God will take care of this, and I will take care of his business. So it's in a way you make a pact by making a choice.
It's very strong faith there.
Well, that's the journey towards wisdom.
I do wonder, with all the things that get thrown in your path, exactly what your soul is here to do. But let's continue. So your son, Andres, has special needs.
Yes.
What are his special needs? Yeah.
Well, he's 14, and 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with sudden severe keratoconus. That means he just suddenly went blind in his one eye, and had 2 cornea operations, and the other eye is deteriorating quite fast. He also was diagnosed with severe dysgraphia. That means he can't write. He has a written disability, but he's so damn clever. He has a gift of speaking and storytelling. And a few months ago, he was diagnosed with Marfan syndrome. But he taught me a lesson. And he said, Mommy, now I know about these things, like my dad said, but I'm living with it for 14 years. So he's in a way my coach. Also, he doesn't have an honesty filter. So in grade 3, he's now in grade 8. The school at that stage called me and said, just come pick up your child and go find another school for him. Because he was bored and the teacher asked him why he's not paying attention. And he said, but what you're teaching us is useless knowledge. How's this going to change the future and consciousness and evolution? And I said to God, but how can you curse a little boy like this that he only can speak truth? But he's teaching me that the world we live in has lost the way to truth. They say power to truth or truth over power or whatever, but it's all sitting here. It's not personified wisdom. And if our children with special needs can become our coaches, we need to listen.
Yeah. The gratitude thing. Yeah. I hope people are following this because, there are times when there are things that just get thrown in your path and you can just be so disabled in life and not be able to move or full of anger and why me. It's really interesting to watch the way you live the life with the thing that is being thrown at you.
There's a difference between gratitude from a knowledge point of view and gratitude with wisdom personified. Because the gratitude from a mind point of view will always have a battle between mind and heart and can cause depression. Whereas if it's personified, you realize no matter what God puts on your path, every day you have one thing, and that's the gift of life.
Yeah. And it's what to do with it.
And gratitude and fear, and gratitude and anger, and gratitude and whatever feeling cannot coexist in the same breath. So use that breath wisely.
So you call yourself a silent server. What does that mean?
Hey, that one, it seems, need to change. I don't like to stand in the public eye for what I do. I don't like to take selfies and put all these things on social media. So it's God, what do you want me to do? You're giving me a group of 25 women, so I'm not posting every day what we do. I serve by the people and what God has put on my path. What I've actually realized to do as well, at one stage, and that's why I said yes to you, I've said no to all nominations. I've said no to all invites because I don't want to be in the public eye. But what God showed me is, at one stage when He wants to pull you higher, you need to be able to say yes to flying high. But there's a difference through the heart and the intention, how you do it. Are you going to do it with a pure heart, with no attachments to what's going to follow from this? Or are you going to do it from an attachment to personal accolades or this or that? And that portion, I'm not interested. And that's why I can fly high for God and still be that silent server by doing just what He puts on my path without advocating. Yeah. This is what we do.
It's not a PR job.
It's not a PR. It's a godly job.
Yeah. Because the work you do with the Sherry Blair Foundation as well, and working with SMMEs.
Yes.
I had a coach from the Sherry Blair Foundation, and you connected me with that. So there's a whole lot of stuff that you do. I just love posting on social media, but it's not for accolade. Some of us are introverts, and it's amazing how these platforms have just allowed us just to post. We're alive, but we don't have...
I've moved a little away from social media in the last few months because through doing good, I've also learned there's a price to doing good, and I've received a lot of death threats. And therefore I've said, God, I'm taking off the social media for a while.
Yeah.
And you do wherever this needs to go. Because let me tell you, if you do something right, the devil is shivering in his boots. And people out there will notice, and you will receive either goodness from that or the spiritual attacks from that. And while I was healing from my health, I didn't want the latter.
Yeah. So you're the founder of the Difference Maker, which is TDM. What does TDM do, and what inspired you to establish it?
Near-death experience. So after that, a lot of gifts opened up in me.
Yeah.
And the one was the gift of hearing. So I got a message, which I realized now is the Holy Spirit or your angel or whatever you call it. And the message said, morning when you wake up, you need to go and register the entity, the Difference Makers, which I did. I'm obedient. So it was registered in 2 days, but God didn't tell me what to do with that. So that it was 2011. We got our non-profit status in 2012, but it was due to the near-death experience. So where we are now is we actually has launched end of last year, and we have had our first group of 25 women as TDM ambassadors that graduated now on the 29th of August. I haven't put anything on social media, but the movement is to create a movement of difference makers with pure hearts, with wisdom. And for that to do, it doesn't take the normal approach from enterprise development or supply development.
Yeah.
Because you take those people's hands.
Yeah.
When they crash in the day, when they feel they want to give up, they call you, you pick them up. So it is a nurturing approach. It's a godly approach. It's an agape approach. But it's a business approach. to create that movement of difference makers.
I must say, I'm sure somebody watching thinks, because we haven't spoken about your qualifications, and you, an accountant, USCA.
I have a master's in finance.
Yeah. And many. So because some people think spirituality and the finance world are separate. So, which is part of why we have this conversation, to show people that you can still have a spiritual experience despite having these financial qualifications, and because we kind of take those seriously, and then when you veer into the spiritual realm, people think, oh, okay.
No. And what the interesting thing is, God is bringing more and more people like me on my path that is academically and business-wise so strong, but also having a similar journey with God. Many years ago, it was just before COVID, I went to a mine, and they asked me to do a day on BBE, but a transformational session. And when I came there, I prepared to speak to the heart. That means about why you need to transform. Why do you need to do good? That audience was not ready for the heart.
Yes.
They wanted to just say, after 15 minutes, the mine manager stood up and said, not interested. Show me the numbers behind this. So in that moment, I had to shift from business, from the heart to the business, and show what is the cost of non-transformation. So if you can't speak to the mind and you speak to the heart, we're not going to get the embeddedness of wisdom, so that true transformation of an integrated is going to happen. So part of wisdom is to be able to see this person is in a mind space, this person is in a heart space. And how do you need to work with anyone in any space to integrate and to get transformation moving?
So at TDM, you also work with prisoners. Yes. What do you learn about humanity working with prisoners?
That they might be physically imprisoned, but if you teach them to be in the mind and the hearts free, many of them can become the biggest difference makers in society, because there's so many other people who's not physically imprisoned. We live with them, but they're imprisoned in their minds and their hearts. And that you can see in what's happening in this world and this country as well. So what it taught me is anybody deserves a second chance. And if every person needs to experience dignity and purpose. And that enriched me so much. I remember the one prisoner, when he came out of parole, I asked the social workers, what do I do for him? And she said, Christa, imagine what he has never done for 18 years. So I took him to the Spur. I said to him, order anything on the menu. Because he never has used a knife and fork for 18 years when he was in prison. For him just to have that simple experience that we take for granted, gratitude. And that's why it's very humbling work.
Yeah. So what's the most important thing to you in life?
Oh, serving God. If I'm not driven by money anymore. No matter if the contract, we said last year no to and walked away from a contract of 2.8 million. Because if there's no place for God, there's no place for us.
Wow. Will you say that's then the most courageous decision you've taken as a human being so far?
Whistleblowing.
What were you whistleblowing about?
My law school I'm not allowed to talk to, but I had to sign one of those secret agreements. What I've realized is there's no protection really for whistleblowers. And people they can talk ethics, but they don't, a lot of them have such ethical fading that their walk is not their talk. I did it in that time. I had a contract with another entity where where one of the ladies, the chairperson of the council, tried to rape her. People don't want to do good. They will try to get rid of you and fabricate stuff against you. This year again, that, like I said, the death experience, I opened up a pot of corruption, and the message to me at the end was, do you want to be a dead hero or a hero that can be a mother to your children?
Wow.
So doing the right thing comes with a cost. And it's just, what are you willing, how high is that price you're willing to pay?
That must have been scary.
It was.
If you can change one thing that you've done in this life and you wish you had done it differently, what will that be? And what wisdom have you gained from that you will do differently today?
Fear is to let go of fear earlier in my life. Meaning what people think about you, what your definition of what people, your standing in life. I would have said yes to God earlier in my life because it's an incredible journey. What I'm still learning to do is that if you look at where Jesus after his resurrection, and Peter saw him and he just started climbing on the water, walking on the water, and then he had fear, and the other guys in the boat didn't get out, but they were rowing. So there's different ways. One swim and the others row. Is not to judge people, think that I'm right and they're wrong. I would have said, God, please fill me with wisdom much earlier in my life. Please give all the lessons to me much earlier in my life so that I can have so much more time to serve Him.
Yeah. Well, you are on the path now. Do you still have things on your bucket list that you want to accomplish? And what are those?
Yes, after having COVID 7 times since July, last year, that means 2 weeks I've calculated 2 weeks every time in bed. That's 3 months a year in bed. I want to have a lot of fun. I definitely want to go, and before I'm 55, want to go and walk the Camino in Spain. I want to do more international work. And
you already teach for university. It's in the US? Where they're based?
Yeah, in the US. So I want to do more international work. I want to take all my stuff of the wisdom that I've written and publish that. And I want to learn to play the bass guitar.
Okay.
Yes. But that is coming down to living life like never before. Now.
So if this was our last conversation, and this was the last thing you wanted to share with the world, what wisdom would you want us to remain with?
2 things. No matter if you're a believer or not, you're going to go back someday to someone.
To somewhere. to somewhere.
What are you going to say you have done with your talents and your gifts? Have you used it for you? Or have you used it to make this world a better place? You may not think that you have a life purpose, but every one of us has some purpose. Do whatever it takes to find out that purpose so that wherever you go back, whoever you are going back to, you're not going to say, but I've lived an empty life.
Do you think people equate earning a living with purpose?
No. No. I'm doing a lot of corporate work. And the first thing I normally do in the first day is, whether it's exec or prisoner, is, what are you living for? And the emptiest portions are those who only, I don't know, I have a life purpose, I just work. But every person can have one trigger. Tomorrow they can be in a wheelchair and they can't be in their job anymore. What will give them purpose to keep on living? What is that one thing? If you don't have your job, if that's taken away from you today, what is that one thing that's going to make you get up every day? And that doesn't have to be God for that person, but you need to find that.
Yeah. That's an interesting way of trying to find. I relate more to meaning than purpose. I find meaning in things that I do. So I don't know if that was my purpose, but I find meaning. So I find meaning because I'm driven to it for whatever reason.
And then it's okay.
Yeah. So, that's a nice way of just reflecting now. A friend of mine who is in a wheelchair, and he got there when he was young, and he's been, for the last 2 decades, has been able to find a different way of expressing of who he is, being in a wheelchair. So it is a nice one to think about, to say, if you didn't have the abilities that you have, how would you still add value in this world?
I want to close it for you with an example. Andres, who's 14, he's a very, you need to have a conversation with him. He's a very wise old man in that little body, and he came home in August, and he says, "Mommy, we're doing this drama thing at school, and the focus of this thing is this guy who lived his whole life for something, and then he was captured and he was tortured, and after the torture, he realized, but everything that he has lived for didn't matter, and then he lost hope." And he didn't want to live again or anymore. And he said, "Mommy, because he's a drama storyteller, Mommy, I want to access that feeling of I have no purpose." And he shared with me afterwards how hopeless he felt, how stripped he felt of any purpose, because everything he didn't mean anything. And that made me think, if every person can have that wisdom and realize, if you every day just work, and tomorrow it's taken away from you and you're in a wheelchair, what are you going to live for? What is going to give you meaning?
COVID lockdowns gave us a little bit of that.
Yes.
Didn't that?
Yes.
But we're back to, things are normal again.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you for making time for this episode of Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Click on the bell notification to be informed when our next episode is available. Wisdom Personified Conversations with Dudu Msomi is also now available on Facebook Watch, Apple and Google Podcasts, as well as Spotify. Enjoy the wisdom journey.